this overlaps with an ongoing project I've been doing for a couple of years, and it's kind of tedious, so I do it in fits and starts. But I have been doing a lot of photo scanning of photos my dad had in a stash that I never knew of, many of which I'd never seen before. But it includes quite a few very old pictures from his childhood on the farm outside of Ann Arbor in Michigan. And it was really, you know, a poor Depression era family at the time. I mean, they were really scraping to get by. So it's, you know, there's a romanticizing of that time. And what always has blown me away is just the idea that here's this little kid on a poor farm in Michigan who, you know, his parents were pretty conservative and, you know, scraping by, but he decided he was going to be an artist around the age of 6. And there's a little painting he did on it's only about 4 or 5 inches wide, but it's, you know, I love it because it's this little kid at an easel, a standing easel painting, you know, and it's pretty crude, but it's also just the spark was there, the fire was there from such a young age. And besides I have photographs from World War II also that are pretty incredible. But what I love is he also had sent letters home from the war during his time in the Marines. He was in the South Pacific. And my grandmother saved all of those. So one of the ones that come to mind is one where he's writing back to his mother saying, here's the list of art supplies I need. And, you know, so he was very specific about, you know, certain brushes and, you know, colors of paint. And then he talked about how he was looking forward to going to Michigan when the war was over and playing football at Michigan. So he kind of was this interesting mix of interests that you wouldn't necessarily put together with being an artist, but there are watercolors and sketches from that time in the Marines that he probably wouldn't want to show people because they were during his period of developing his talents, I think, for drawing or for painting. But I think, you know, I think that really just anything later in life he did talking about those things was because it was just very authentic to him, that the time he had spent in the Marines. And one thing that I was shocked to find out, and it was after my father's death, that my father's younger brother mentioned that Doug had been at Iwo Jima, and he had never mentioned that. I had no idea. I know, you know, he wouldn't have been there in the early waves, but one of the things he did during World War II was, well, initially he had gone to boot camp in San Diego, and probably just to kind of loosen things up a little bit with his drill sergeant in boot camp, and they're notorious for, you know, their harsh treatment of the new troops. He did a pencil portrait of the guy, and the guy loved it and hung it up on his wall in his office. And at some point, the base commander walked by and saw that, and he said, "How'd you get that? I want one of those, but I want mine painted." So they basically set up a thing where Doug had to stay on for another round of boot camp, except to help teach the next group, theoretically. But it was really so this base commander could get a portrait. And I'd love to see that portrait. It would be interesting. But through that, I think they also realized, well, let's put Doug sort of attached to the Marine intelligence troops or whatever. I don't really know if it was a specific unit, but in the war and in places like Iwo Jima, he would have gone up in reconnaissance flights to, they were photographing, you know, enclosures on the ground that might be guns with netting, camouflage netting over them. And he would be drawing sketches from the plane also, with the idea that when they got back to the base, those photographs would be developed, but they'd be in black and white. And so he could, you know, from his notes, go back in and then sketch, you know, exactly where those camouflage nettings were. So, and that was pretty perilous. I mean, the planes were getting shot at and strafed, and, you know, It was a lot, I think a lot more dangerous that he portrayed, but he never mentioned that that was Iwo Jima. It was only from my uncle that I found that out.